Hey, hi. In this video, we're gonna see how to enable Amazon DynamoDB Zero ETL integration with Amazon OpenSearch Engine. As you see in this PPT depicts how to enable automatic ETL configuration, which means that AWS has recently introduced a feature called Zero ETL. With that feature, you can integrate um, Amazon OpenSearch Engine with the DynamoDB. So here, Amazon DynamoDB is acting as a source of data. Amazon OpenSearch Engine is acting as the destination where you want to dump the data and take a enterprise grade capabilities, right? For example, say when you have a data on the Amazon search engine, you can build your own custom dashboards, custom search queries. You can use it for machine learning purpose. You can use it for AI purpose, right? So there are lots of usabilities of Amazon OpenSearch Engine here. Now this service has recently introduced a feature called Zero ETL, which means that you can directly integrate DynamoDB with this, which will actually mimics the ETL operation, which is nothing but in traditional days we used to use AWS Glue. In the AWS Glue, we used to configure our own database, we used to configure our own jobs and all, right? That is like a heavy lifting configuration, very difficult to manage as well, right? Now that has been gone. Since these services are static and they are aware of these services functionality, they have built a native capability called Zero ETL, with which you can directly enable the the sync between this source to destination. Okay, now we will see how to do that in my AWS account. So currently I'm in my AWS account. I'm in DynamoDB page. I'm in Oregon region as well. So currently I have opened multiple tabs, as you see here. So this is Amazon OpenSearch Service page as well. Now our source here in my, if I go back to the PPT, my source is DynamoDB. Now how to use this Amazon DynamoDB to to configure the Zero ETL with Amazon OpenSearch Engine, right? So for that case, I have already created a DynamoDB table called face records, and that face records has some items in it. So in total, we have a 16 items as of now. I'm going to show you that how we can synchronize this data with the Amazon OpenSearch Engine, which is acting as a sink here or destination here. So for that case, you need to have Amazon OpenSearch Service. So that is nothing but you need to have a managed cluster called as domain here. So you need to have a domain. I have already created a domain for Amazon OpenSearch Service, which is currently in active state. Note that creation of Amazon OpenSearch Service will take nearby 15 minutes. Yeah. So for that sake, I have already pre-created this cluster. To create a cluster for you, you can do something like this. Click on a create button. This is like how to use UI to create the OpenSearch Service domain. But you can use it CDKs, you can use SDKs, you can use infrastructure as a code. You can use CLI to create the cluster as well. So here we're gonna give the name of the domain something like this, and then create creation method. So since this is a demo, so we're gonna use easy create version. I have used OpenSearch 2.11. In this one currently, since this is a demo, you can choose VPC access method, which is recommended and highly secure method. Since this is a demo to show that we can sync the data from the source to sync, that's the reason I have used public access, and the rest all configurations here I did use create master users. That is nothing but we created an user called something like this, yeah, and then given some password something like this, yeah, and then so this is the configuration which I kept in the fine grained access control. So likewise, you can keep other default configurations. You can keep the other default configurations like this, and click on a create. Basically, it will take it will take nearby 15 minutes. Okay, so make a note that while you create a domain, yeah, while you create a domain in the fine grained access control, we used create master use. So with this create master use, what we are doing is we are actually creating a user ID and password for Amazon OpenSearch Engine. Along with, we are also using IAM role, which has access to publish the data from the source to sync here. Yeah. All right. So that's a very critical or very important point here. So after the 15 minutes, my domain is in the state active, as you see here. Now we are ready with the source and we are ready with the destination, right? So before that, I'm going to give you one glimpse, that is how to access the dashboard of the Amazon OpenSearch services, something like this. Okay, if you click on this domain, there is a OpenSearch dashboard URL. If you click on this one, it will take you to a website which is nothing but a web UI. From the web UI, you need to log in. In the sense, you need to use the user ID and password that you have already used. I've already logged in. That's the reason it is taking me directly logging in, because it is using the cache user ID and password. Now I'm going to put you in front of again. Say like you need to use the user ID and password that you used to create the OpenSearch domain. Yeah. So in my case, I have given my super secret password, and that is my user ID. So with this option, my OpenSearch dashboard is ready. All right. Now we are done with the source and destination. Okay. So let's directly jump to the our main part of the demo. That is nothing but heart of the demo. How to enable zero ETL integration between these two. So to do that, what you do is you're gonna go back to the Amazon OpenSearch service. In the Amazon OpenSearch service, you go to the ingestion. You see that there is an option called ingestion. Click on a pipeline. So basically, this is the spot where you will enable zero ETL configurations between these two services. So for that case, what we do is, we're gonna go to this pipeline and create a pipeline. So before you create a pipeline, I'm gonna give you one more very important part, that is nothing but creating an IAM role, which is needed for this operations. Okay, since we need to give this, in the sense we need to give this pipeline, we need to enable this pipeline having an access on the DynamoDB and also on the Amazon OpenSearch, right? So for that case, we need to give the certain permissions. For that case, you need to have an IAM role. So in this case, I'm using an IAM role called ETL something like this. Yeah, and this IAM role is having an admin access for your information, but you can keep it RBAC. That is nothing but you can keep it the minimum access, like required minimum access, and make it your own custom policies. But I came here to enable you with a certain insight here, that is this IAM role should have a trust to the few services called OSIS pipeline. So basically, you should have a trust to this osis-pipelines.amazon.aws.com. Along with that, you need to also have an access on the, in the sense, this service should be trusted to AWS service basically, right? So in that one, very important is osis-pipeline.amazon.com. Yeah, along with that, you can also give cloud search. Yeah, I'm just telling that this is the very vital the trust configuration that you need to maintain. All right. So with that, you need to make a note of your IAM role. So this is my ARN of the IAM role. Now we will switch back to the integration pipeline. So I will go back again. So that is the recap of what is the configuration that you need to maintain on Amazon IAM role. So here what I do is we're going to create a ingestion pipeline here. So here I'm currently in the ingestion pipeline. Click on a create pipeline. So here you can give the name of your pipeline, something like this. Yeah. And then later in the persistent buffer, you can keep it default. Pipeline capacity, keep it default. So this is the configuration. This is something very important and like the major part of the demo. So here, how to write the pipeline configuration. Okay. So for that case, I have already created a pipeline definition, something like this. I'm going to walk you through this one right now. So this is kind of a YAML definition that you need to manage, which actually defines pipeline to do what. In the sense, in this pipeline configuration, you are defining this is my source, this is my destination, these are all my configurations that you need to use. All right. So to do that, what I do is here we're going to use a version that is currently we are using version 2. And then again, you can give a name of your pipeline, that is DynamoDB pipeline. So what does this mean? In the sense, this name can be anything custom. So DynamoDB pipeline, you need to use. Basically, I recommend you to use this value, that is DynamoDB pipeline, which is actually a schema. So don't change it. You can use it as it is. Yeah. And then you have another two parameter called source and sync. Now let's see on the source. So in our case, our source is a DynamoDB. So you need to use this DynamoDB keyword. Then we have in the acknowledgement, we have a true. In the tables, basically we are actually using the table ARN. In the table ARN, you can give that your DynamoDB table ARN, which you can get it from here. You go back to the DynamoDB page and click on this one. So here you will get in the additional information, you will get this ARN. Copy that ARN and put it this here. Basically, that's what the ARN is all about. And then in the stream, basically, in the sense, stream means what? In the sense, basically starting position, in the sense how to extract this is something like a convention in the pipeline configuration. You can try to read the document, you will understand more about this one. And then in the export, so why does it needs an export is basically this pipeline is not one-to-one mapping. So in between they need a DynamoDB table. So I'm going to copy the DynamoDB table logo here. So basically when you integrate DynamoDB to OpenSearch engine, in between it is currently using a S3 bucket. So that S3 bucket I'm going to show you here like this. So basically as a staging, it is actually using it's actually using the S3 bucket as a staging place where it actually keeps the informations required for minimum time as well. So you can think like this. Okay, so I'm just going to show you in front of you. So basically I'm going to minimize this right away. So here you can think like, so this S3 bucket is acting as a staging place. So I'm going to make it back. So basically send back like this. Yeah. So now you can try to correlate the design. Okay. So basically, so like this, in the sense, this is an S3 bucket which is needed for integration between DynamoDB to Amazon OpenSearch. Okay, so for that case you need to have an S3 bucket. So I have created an S3 bucket called DynamoDB to OpenSearch engine, something like that. In that one we have created a folder called DynamoDB to OpenSearch export. Okay, so this is the configuration that is there in the S3 bucket side. So here we're going to use that bucket name here and give the region where the bucket is sitting, and then give the prefix of the bucket basically. Yeah, so why do we need this? Because as I said, this integration pipeline, it is using this DynamoDB as a staging place where it actually copies the data from DynamoDB and makes it as a staged, and then from the staging it actually uploads into the Amazon OpenSearch. Okay, for that case we need to have this information. And then we have the AWS configurations. In the AWS configurations we're going to use that IAM role which I explained earlier. So that IAM role ARN which we copied, that has to be put in here place, and give the region in the sense in which place your source and sink resources are sitting. So here our source is DynamoDB, sink is OpenSearch. You see source DynamoDB and sink. I'm going to open this. Our sink is OpenSearch. In the OpenSearch, we need to again give the further properties, that is host, index, document ID. So we're going to see what are those. Okay, so in the host you need to give your host endpoint. So that host endpoint I'm going to show you here. So basically if you go to your OpenSearch again, I'm going to open this OpenSearch into the another tab basically. So there I'm going to show you that from where you need to get that ARN. So I have duplicated the tabs basically. So here you see there is a domain ARN. So that you need to copy, or sorry, you need to use this domain endpoint version 2. So this one you need to copy this. If you go to the domains, click on your domain. So I'm going to recap it again. So here click on this, and once that is open, you go to this one. There is a domain endpoint version 2. Copy this, and that has to be put in place in this host definition, right? And host is here, it is acting as a list, so you need to keep it in the form of double quotes, and then give the name of your index. What is the index? Is nothing but in the Amazon OpenSearch it is actually grouping the data with an annotation, and that is called as a index. Is nothing but basically in Amazon DynamoDB table we give the name of the table, and each table has its own records, right? So likewise Amazon OpenSearch has an index. That index will contain backup data like that. And then document ID is nothing but underneath this index each record has to be uniquely identified. So that is nothing but document ID. And then we have a basic authentication. This is very, very important point. So why we need basic authentication is nothing but, say for example, there are two types of mechanism to authenticate this Amazon OpenSearch service. So currently we are using master user type authentication, which is nothing but internal user database. In the sense it is an user ID and password based authentication. There is another mechanism. If you click on this edit of your Amazon OpenSearch, as I said earlier, so here currently we are using master user. So there is another option called IAM ARN as master user. Nothing but you can use IAM role as a master IAM ARN. Yeah. So that's the reason. So that's the reason we need to, since we are using basically since we are using the master database username, right? So if I go back here and go to the security, so there we are actually using in the security configuration we are using master user type, and that master user type is not an IAM based but basically it is an internal user database. In the sense, it's using a default user that is being created during open search engine creation, right? And that is where username and passwords are being kept. You need to keep this information here. This is important because with this option you have a two advantage. One, you can ingest the data with using IAM role, plus you can also access the Amazon OpenSearch dashboard with using from the browser. Okay, if you directly going for IAM based authentication, which means that you have a problem to access the dashboard. That's the reason I found this method, which is actually working for me. And then in the AWS, we're gonna copy the same thing which I explained above for the source as well. All right, so with that, then you need to click on validate. So once you click on validate, it will go and say that it is validated. And here in the networking, you can use the VPS access, nothing but you're gonna tag your VPCs and security groups, which actually makes your the integration pipeline within the VPC. For now, we're gonna keep it as a public, in the sense it will the pipeline will be hosted on the public, and it will use the public mode of the data transition to move the data from the source to sync here, right? Likewise, in the log publishing, in the sense the activities that is happening in this data ingestion pipeline is also being tracked with a log in the Amazon CloudWatch. So that also you can enable it, which is needed for troubleshooting purpose. Okay, with that option, click on next. Yeah, so then so in the final option, so you will have a review and create a pipeline. Once you click on a create pipeline, so it will gonna take another 5 to 10 minutes basically. So creation of pipeline will take nearby close to 5 minutes or 5+ minutes, and the status will go on active. So at the first time when the status goes in active, what it does is it actually starts migrating the data present on the Amazon DynamoDB table, right? So here I'm telling table. Okay, so it's not like all the table. One table data will be pushed into the Amazon OpenSearch one index. Okay, one table pointed to one Amazon OpenSearch index. Okay, so that will start automatically once the status goes in active. Now, so with that being said, so far now what I do is I'm going to show you that if you go to the Amazon S3 bucket, which we used as a staging, the resource, you see that it has created it has created the objects underneath this bucket, and folder. You see that, right? And if you dig down, so basically it's when it actually creates these kind of files and folders underneath that bucket, which we used as a staging, which means that it is working. Yeah, so far now what I do is I'm going to go back to the OpenSearch dashboard, click on these three bars and go to the index management, which means that here you can see all the indexes belongs to this particular Amazon OpenSearch domain. So here you see that this is the index which we created, and currently it has a record, which means that what basically our records are getting synchronized between them. Okay, so if I go to the DynamoDB table and click on explore table items, currently we have 16 records. All the 16 records are being synchronized. Now what I do is I'm going to create another dummy record in this DynamoDB table, and I'm going to show you that that gets synchronized in the Amazon OpenSearch engine as well. So for that case, what we do is we're going to create a dummy record in this DynamoDB table, and we see that this is getting synchronized here. So what I do is I'm going to change this some dummy information, because this is my DynamoDB table, which is created with a table key as well. Yeah. So right now we have a 17 records. Okay, so I'm going to create one more record so that it will go to 18th record. So basically I'm going to change it to something like this. Yeah, and then I'm going to create a record. So currently this DynamoDB table has 18 records now. Now we should see that so if our DynamoDB zero ETL integration is working as expected, we can see the same number of records in the OpenSearch index, right? For that case, I'm going to go back to the OpenSearch dashboard and click on refresh. So it is currently taking some time. While it is taking certain time, what I do is I'm going to show you the logs of the pipelines. So to view the logs of the pipeline, I'm going to close one tab of the Amazon OpenSearch engine. Now you click on this ingestion pipeline, that is my demo pipeline, and then here you can see there is a log, a CloudWatch log group link. Click on this one, it will take you to the CloudWatch log groups, where you can see the the logs, in the sense you can see the logging of the the zero ETL integration process. All right. So you see that the currently it has run a couple of minutes back, and if you click on open the latest log group, you see that it is actually working as expected. In the sense, if I go down, so the last record is created at 10:12, which is nothing but equal to the current time. Yeah. So there are no errors. You can also keep track of these logs by checking if there are any warning or error. Yeah. So looks like there is no error. And generally, as per my experience, the sync between this Amazon DynamoDB to Amazon OpenSearch will take at least minimum 3 to 4 minutes. So what I do is I'm gonna go on wait of this video, and I will gonna go back, come back and see that this um, this document number. You see that this index, that is our index. If I go back to the definition of our pipeline, so in our pipeline we said users is my index. Yeah. So users index as of now in this Amazon OpenSearch cluster, right? Currently that has a total number of records equal to 16. Now this record number has to be increased to 18. Why? Because the DynamoDB table has records 18. Now for your information, I'm going to show you that these records have something like these numbers, and there are like data like this. There are like face IDs. There are emails as well. Now let's see. While it is syncing, what I do is I'm not going to go on a wait for some time, but what I do is I'm going to take you to the developer tools, and then we're going to query the the index. So I'm going to go to the developer tools, and we have a default query like get search, and we're going to hit this enter, and we see that it has written the records in the hints. If you see in the hints, so currently there are records are being retrieved in the index. You see that the users, there are lots of records in this one. There are source equal to 1, this one. So basically our records are getting, you see that. So if you go to the sources, there you see that it has a face ID, photo, data, email, blah blah things. Yeah. So those are all data. You can find it here. I'm going to open it one for view purpose. You see that it has a face ID, address, city, country, email, blah blah thing, right? So all these informations are getting appearing on the index called users, right? So you see the photo ID, so everything, so all the data, which means that the data is getting synchronized. In the sense, the data which is present in the Amazon DynamoDB is exactly syncing on the Amazon OpenSearch engine. Now we are waiting for other two records to get synchronized in this OpenSearch engine. So for that case, I'm going to go back to the index, and here you go. So our record is now changed to 17, right? Earlier it was 16. Now the total document number has been changed, which means that what? Basically, I didn't do anything. We just enabled a zero ETL integration between OpenSearch and Amazon DynamoDB. Now automatically the records, the changes on this DynamoDB is getting synchronized on the OpenSearch engine. Yeah. And if you refresh it now, and after a couple of seconds also, the value is getting changed as well. All right. So what I mean to say here is that basically without doing anything, these two source and sync are getting synchronized automatically. Now why it is happening? Because we are using the ingestion pipeline, which is nothing but basically AWS codes themselves as a zero ETL integration, which is actually helps you to migrate your data from one source to sync. So basically so it also fulfills your complex need for the enterprise grade as well. So with that being said, I have shown you the things need to be shown in this video. Finally, I wanted to show you that the total documents on the user index is getting increased to 18 now, which means that the data which we added here is also synced on the Amazon OpenSearch index called users. Okay. So all right. So with that note, I have shown you the things need to be shown in this video. Finally, kind request, please do subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. With that note, thank you. Thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.